Welcome to Unholy Inquiry, where each tale leads you deeper into a labyrinth of mystery waiting to be uncovered. This time, join us as we delve into the shocking details. Poirot Found Too Late, a fan-crafted story that pays homage to the genius and sophistication of Agatha Christie's iconic detective, Hercule Poirot. We are thrilled to have you with us on this captivating journey. Share your thoughts, let us know where you're tuning in from, and if you spot any details we missed, your feedback is invaluable. Together, let's continue to shape even more thrilling enigmas. Chapter 1. The enigmatic guest emerges. The storm raged outside, casting a pall of shadow and sound into the old manor, where the flickering candlelight danced nervously against the encroaching darkness. A sharp scream shattered the air, piercing through the howling winds, as if the very walls of the house had conspired to echo the terror within. It was an unsettling sound, vibrating with raw panic, and as it receded, an unsettling silence replaced it, punctuated only by the relentless patter of rain on the window pane. In the grand drawing-room of the Bouc Manor, a gathering had devolved into chaos. The esteemed detective, Hercule Poirot, stood at the center, his meticulously groomed mustache twitching as he surveyed the room. Around him were the guilty faces of his clear suspects, each more dubious than the last, silhouetted against the shrieking storm like phantoms caught in the throes of some dreadful secret. The enigmatic guest, Mrs. Clara Headley, was now absent from their number, her scream lingering in the air like an uninvited guest, bringing with it a sense of dread that seeped deeply into the bones. Mr. Ralph Headley, her husband, appeared ravaged by grief and anger, his hands trembling as he clasped a handkerchief to his brow. Known for his vast wealth and social influence, Ralph was a man whose temper had a reputation to match. The fiery countenance only illuminated the shadows of his past, a failed business venture and a rumored affair with Mrs. Beatrice Langston, their neighbor and a sharp-witted socialite. Beatrice now stood nearby, her eyes glistening with an unsettling mix of concern and something akin to satisfaction, as she positioned herself strategically away from Ralph, as if his grief had dulled her own trepidation. Then there was Dr. Oliver Whitmore, an acquaintance and confidant of the Headleys, his unkempt hair and scattered appearance belying the sharp intellect honed through years of practice. A physician of good repute, yet whispering of dark intrigues, he had grown increasingly isolated over the weeks leading to this fateful night. Hints of dire financial troubles mingled uncannily with the tales of infidelity surrounding Ralph. "Remarkable, isn't it, Poirot?" he inquired, his voice trembling as if he were the one on trial. "That only moments ago we were arguing over trivialities, and now death has entered our midst." Poirot focused intently upon Dr. Whitmore. "Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami. You speak of trivialities, yet in the guise of argument may lie the deepest resentments." His discerning gaze shifted towards Beatrice. "And you, madame, your pulse quickens with delight, is it not? Why, one might think your heart thrives on such chaos." Ralph interjected, his voice laden with suspicion. "How dare you? This is no time for accusations. Clara is missing, and you speak of hearts and trivialities. We must find her." His anger clashed violently against the somber atmosphere, yet Poirot detected the underlying fear, the fear of silence, of loss, a fear that unmasked the drive in each person. As the storm swelled, rattling the windows with an accusing ferocity, Poirot initiated the search for the elusive Mrs. Headley. He stepped cautiously around the room, filled with secrets, noticing the overturned chair beside the grand piano. The imprint of an arm rested awkwardly against the wood, the faint echo of distress woven into the fabric of the area. With every step, Poirot's mind danced, unraveling the intricate web of emotions and motives, all yet hidden from plain sight. One by one, he questioned them, his precise inquiries slicing through their defenses. "Mr. Headley," he began, "the night's tension was palpable even before you lost your dear wife. Could your temper have played a role in any of your prior disputes?" Ralph blustered and spluttered, defending himself while yet revealing the lingering anger. Poirot turned towards Beatrice, noting the slight twitch in her smile. "Ah, and you, madame, could perhaps offer a different perspective to this discord. An affair, I believe. Emotions run deep, but do they run true? Is it not you who might have wished for a different arrangement?" Beatrice's retort crumbled under the penetrating gaze of the detective, yet hints of her disdain towards Clara belied a more potent undercurrent. But it was Dr. Whitmore, the buried past of his own, connections riddled with despair and clandestine dealings, who remained the enigma. "We forget," he spoke softly, optically distancing himself from the chaos, "that Clara was a source of unhappiness for many while possessing a gift of manipulation, a skill honed across her years of navigating the social elite." As the weight of his words fell heavy, Poirot could feel the two edges of a double-edged sword, veering dangerously close to severance. An unyielding search resonated within the manor as Poirot inspected every room, finding the lingering sense of perfume that betrayed frets carried in memories of countless past encounters. A forgotten locket lay beside the fireplace, half hidden beneath ash, bearing the inscription of an unnamed lover. But what is this? A simple trinket, or a poignant reminder of what was? Clara, it seems, had more than mere connections with the past, Poirot murmured under his breath, piecing together the discarded fragments. Yet, amidst this web of suspicion, Poirot felt a sharp pang of doubt straying within his own acumen. Were they all stopping him from revealing the truth? The flickering candlelight cast shadows that danced with malevolent freedom as if mocking him, a mere trick of the mind, yet one that spiraled a tingle down his spine. In the cacophony of chaos, Poirot turned, noticing, survived yet by his own relentless questions. Just then, a faint noise broke through the chamber, an echo from the cellar below, drawing a line of hesitation as they all halted in breathless anticipation. The uneasy soul fell still. A haunting spectre had risen, threatening the momentum of his investigation forward. As he stood poised in his next gambit, a sound swept through the manor, breaking the silence. A woman's voice fleeing through the atmosphere like a spectre. Unbelievably, it was Clara's. Only the shadows revealed the truth, illuminating her return with the dim glow that adorned ghostly figures. Yet as her form emerged, the gathering of suspects fell into hushed apprehension, enveloped by the hauntingly ominous foreshadowing of the unraveling tragedy. The heart constricted, an undercurrent of betrayal, confusion, a cruel arc pulling taut within the hidden depths. Poirot's thoughts raced, disallowing certainty to disturb his thoughts. He knew he was on the precipice of something extraordinary, yet terrifying. The storm outside raged as step after step revealed each harsh truth, and Poirot could feel, amidst the encroaching darkness, that a revelation loomed stronger than the tempest. Ah, but the deception of humanity knows no bounds. It whispered intimately through the walls, entwining a conspiracy that would prove to clutch the very essence of human emotion, bridging them to unseen ends. The clues gathered like spectres, pointing towards betrayal, hidden truths, and a tale that flew beyond comprehension. And just when he thought he held the conductor's baton firmly, the symphony of fate held a far different tune. Altogether, Chapter 2. A letter with no return address. The storm had receded into a whispered tension, yet the atmosphere within Bouc Manor remained thick with unspoken dread, its very walls infused with secrets and regrets. As the last echoes of the previous night's chaos faded into an unsettling stillness, a new chapter of darkness unfurled, heralded by the quiet arrival of a fragile letter. It lay upon the mantelpiece, stark against the opulent decor, its tattered envelope adorned with a foreign seal, foreign to all but one. Hercule Poirot, with a precision born of acute observation, picked up the letter gingerly, as though it might explode with hidden revelations. His eyes narrowed, taking in the faint scent of lavender, mingling with the damp air. Such a fragrant detail should not belong to this grim setting, he mused, for it carried echoes of a night at the opera, a stolen glance, an admirer perhaps. Signature scents often told tales of their own, but this particular one was steeped in mystery, evoking a past long shrouded in shadows. Ah, but the human heart. It hides many things, mon ami, he thought, his thoughts turning inwards as he prepared to unravel the tale ahead. In the room, three faces mirrored the unease felt by Poirot. Ralph Headley, still seething from the previous night's tumult, gripped the arm of his chair, a strange light flickering in his eyes, betraying a man torn between grief and festering resentment. His wife's scream had scarred his heart, but were there further scars beneath that? Beatrice Langston, ever present and inwardly smug, observed with a detached curiosity, an unsettling smile dancing on her lips that suggested she relished the discord unfolding around her. Finally, Dr. Oliver Whitmore paced in silent deliberation, as if calculating the weight of his own unspoken involvement, shrouded in vulnerabilities of his own making. Poirot's keen intellect grasped the social architecture at play amongst them, and with the letter held delicately in his hand, he approached Ralph. "Monsieur Headley," he began with measured calm, "this letter speaks to a matter buried beneath layers of resentment. Might it be possible, I wonder, that the owner of this dispatch could possess a key to many locked doors?" Ralph's brow furrowed, his thoughts wrestling with the implications. "You think I know who sent it?" he shot back defensively, and the pitiful anger masked his insecurity. "I care not for whispers and tea-time gossip. Clara. A letter. How absurd!" His insistence was perhaps too loud for a man attempting to dispel a phantom of guilt that lingered in the air. Beatrice interjected smoothly, her voice syrupy with the pleasure of the fleeced. "Oh, but Ralph, is it not curious? A letter with no return address could belong to anyone. Perhaps it is from your beloved Clara, confessing her sins to you from afar." Her laughter, light and laced with malice, echoed against the wooden beams of the manor, filling the chamber with an unexpected chill. "Confessions?" Dr. Whitmore stepped forward, deprecating at the thought, his fingers scratching at his unkempt hair. "There are many along that vein, yet not all are worthy of recognition. Perhaps it was not Clara who penned it at all. Do we not know how some wield their pens like weapons?" His sudden assertion hung in the air, a daring insinuation, plucking at unseen strings, forcing Poirot's steely gaze to settle upon him. As Poirot shifted focus back to the letter, He glanced at its seal with an educator's eye, an unusual crest depicting two intertwined serpents. "This mark, it conjures certain memories," he whispered, more to himself than to the others. His thoughts raced back. Ah, but which serpent? The one that enchants, or the one that ensnares? With this he discerned a puzzle of subtleties hidden within the design. Poirot discerned how the tension shifted as he moved deeper into the investigation. What ties this letter weaves with the revelations of past wrongs only. He could see a journey leading towards truths obscured beneath layers of time. He interrogated Ralph, whose impatience morphed into fragile embarrassment, fidgeting yet unable to hold back. "I had nothing to do with my wife's letters," he exclaimed, the desperation clawing at the edges of his resolve. The night advanced as Poirot meticulously delved into the latent dynamics. The manor's corridors felt claustrophobic, each flickering shadow whispering secrets of hostility and regret. Unraveling the strands of who belonged in this dark tapestry, he knew the letter could lead to more sinister motives from whomever concealed ill will towards Clara. With a twist of fate, his investigation revealed a false trail, one that would lead him to believe Beatrice possessed a solid alibi. Her claims echoed the truth of her companionship with Ralph in common circles, suggesting the prospect of jealousy coursing through the veins of their familiar resentment. Yet Poirot remained vigilant. It was easy to hide behind the guilt of expressed desires. Which of these spirits was simply mournful, and which concealed knives behind their intended gestures? Hours passed with adroit questioning in a cycle of tension, leading Poirot to the realization that the path was thus far fraught with contradictions, the truth ensnared within warped reflections of loyalty and deceit. The puzzles interlinked, providing tantalizing glimpses of affection's darker shade. Yet as the hands of time caught up with him, Poirot found further revelations lying just beyond his current prescience. Then, as he reached the tinder of Inferno, the true face of betrayal emerged from the shadows. Clara, the alleged victim, had not only written the letter, but had cast a line that caught not only her own emotional turmoil, but the deeper secrets that bound Ralph and Beatrice together in an affair. With a calculated and heart-wrenching twist, Poirot gathered them all, declaring solemnly that the letter was no ordinary confession. It hinted at a pact formed in darkness, one with Clara at its very heart, a pact of silence, treachery, restitution, and forbidden desire. As Poirot considered the delicate dance of betrayal among the three suspects, a profound clarity engulfed his thoughts. The relentless storm had birthed more than chaos. It birthed a haunting truth that tore through the fabric of their confiding lies. Clara embraced betrayal not only with letters, but with promises sealed by deceit, fabrications of emotion heaped upon fragile hearts. The very letter, meant for liberation, had sheltered demons close-knit to her, uncovered only by the light of revelation. As the truth unraveled within Bouc Manor, Poirot leaned back slightly, his eyes narrowing and reflecting the singular storm of deception enveloping him. Ah, mon cher, a letter with no return address embodies haunting truths. The weight settled among them, and in his voice, a calm inevitability filled the air. For in the end, the heart, layered with envy and desire, fails most readily to hide the essence of its betrayal. Chapter 3: Secrets Beneath the Dinner Table. The thunderclap that tore through the darkened sky was a harbinger, an ominous warning that echoed across Bouc Manor, rattling the very foundations of an evening steeped in suffocating tension. Poirot, seated at the head of the grand dining table, cast a watchful gaze over those gathered cloistered in the flickering candlelight. Shadows stretched and twisted around the figures seated across from him, their faces pale and anxious. Was it merely the tempest outside that sent shivers down their spines, or was it the heavy weight of malevolence lurking just beneath the surface of their interactions? He glanced unobtrusively at Clara, who sat silently to his left, her fingers nervously tracing the delicate patterns on the tablecloth, as though searching for solace in the fabric's intricate design. The anguish etched upon her features, a morose blend of regret and defiance, compelled Poirot to ponder the depths of her despair. A woman entangled in her own intricate web of secrets, she had once been vibrant and full of life. And now she was but a ghost of her former self. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami, he mused internally. To his right sat Ralph Headley, his expression taut with concealed fury. The loss of his wife had torn through him like a vicious storm, yet buried in that grief was a burgeoning resentment. He stared icily at Clara, his eyes bereft of the warmth they once possessed. Did the ripples of guilt lap at the shores of his consciousness, the aftermath of a betrayal so monstrous it threatened to drown him? Across the table, Beatrice Langston leaned forward, her smile disquieting in its insincerity, a mask over the horrors lurking just beneath the surface. Known for her duplicitous charm, was there more to her than the bratty exterior she presented? Poirot knew that, in this game of human emotion, all participants stood to lose, yet the stakes climbed higher with each passing moment. The tension clung to the air, thick as fog, as the servants discreetly filled glasses with rich red wine, casting furtive glances toward their masters. Suddenly, a ripple of commotion erupted as Clara's fork clattered against her plate, the sound piercing through the strained silence. With a trembling hand, she raised her voice, a mixture of defiance and desperation. Enough of this charade. The truth must unfold tonight, for I can bear no more of this looming shadow of deceit. Her declaration reverberated against the walls, and Poirot felt an electric thrill run through him, an igniting fire of chaos that was about to erupt. As the unrelenting storm continued to rage outside, Poirot seized the moment, his calm demeanor never wavering. "My dear Clara, one must tread carefully with accusations. Truth, like the wild sea, can whirl you into treacherous waters." His steely gaze met that of Ralph, whose features twisted in unbridled fury, the chains of his past dragging him down into darkness. "You're hiding something. You and Beatrice, both of you," he spat, the words weaving dagger-like through the air. It was the moment Poirot had awaited. Like a tightly coiled spring, the truth beneath the surface was ready to unfurl. But before he could weave a web of questions, Clara shot back, her voice tremulous. "And what of you, Ralph? You wear grief like a cloak, but beneath it lies your vulnerable heart. Have you buried your guilt so far that it now festers beneath the dining table?" In that split second, Poirot observed the shift, the quickened breaths, the furtive glances exchanged between Ralph and Beatrice, and the darkening storm clouds outside. With great acuity, he noted the way the shadows played across their faces, reflecting the swirling tempest within their hearts. A flicker of movement caught his attention, a hand creeping beneath the tablecloth, the delicate sound of crumpling paper hidden in the darkness. It was Beatrice's hand, the wretched seamstress of so many secrets. What did she conceal beneath her polished exterior? Gathering the fragments of the evening, Poirot pursued her with his inquiries. Madame Langston, what brewing tempest forces you to worm away from the scrutinizing light of truth? Her eyes momentarily flared, a flicker of fear entwined with defiance, and an unsettling silence engulfed them all. Yet, with practiced elegance, she diverted the attention, her posture regal even in her unease. I find these insinuations absurd. Monsieur Poirot, a dinner table should bring us together rather than sow discord. Undeterred, Poirot's voice, laced with a quiet intensity, dissected her statement. Ah, but this table has witnessed the darkest of secrets. You would do well to remember that each meal shared becomes a pilgrimage, weighted by the burdens we carry. The candlelight flickered, casting an unsettling glow upon the grim gathering, as hidden truths thickened the atmosphere. As he continued his questioning, Poirot turned the heat back toward Clara, whose silent suffering tangled her in the web of intrigue cast by her companions. You penned that letter, did you not, mademoiselle? And perhaps you believed it to be a lifeline, a plea for understanding amidst the churning chaos within your heart. Her eyes widened, something akin to recognition flashing across her face before she deflected the sharp steel of Poirot's gaze. Why would you presume such a thing? You know nothing of the anguish I've endured. Clara's anger flared, but Poirot only quirked a brow, drawing closer. The shadows composed an audience, fascinated by the confrontation unfolding beneath the flickering candlelight. In the ensuing silence, he felt the clock tick brazenly, a methodical reminder that time was slipping away. Each second heightened the tension, drawing them closer to the ultimate reveal. Poirot's mind raced, grappling with the puzzle laid before him. He had expected a simple confession, yet this entangled web revealed far more than he initially surmised. With a crisp inhale, he turned to the table. Then we return to the foundation of our evening. A beloved companion is lost, and concealment breeds destruction. From whence do these secrets emanate? The collective trepidation hanging in the air thickened as perception began to warp around him. Could Clara's unyielding strength hide a sordid burden born of love? As the conflict unfolded, Poirot saw it clearly. Beatrice's earlier reaction to the letter's mention stemmed from a deep-seated fear of exposure. Perhaps Ralph's ire towards Clara arose from something far more sinister, a desperate, coiled resentment toward a betrayal unacknowledged, festering in the darkest corners of their shared experiences. Then it dawned upon him. A beautiful, ironic twist unveiled itself with a somber clarity, an emotional crescendo, building toward a final revelation. As the indescribable weight of betrayal crashed upon him, Poirot would gather them all, like moths to a flame. 4 hearts entwined within this drama, each dance of shadows revealing the innate treachery beneath the surface. Clara had not only written the letter, she had caught them in a network of emotional entanglements that ensnared their souls. In the moments that followed, Poirot orchestrated the performance with liquid grace, wielding his questions as weapons, probing deeper and striking at the heart of each concealed emotion. In the end, you 3 stand before me, unanchored by your secrets. The truth, like a dish served cold, has turned rancid beneath our very noses. The room quaked with realization as he unveiled their hidden identities. Love affairs, betrayal woven tighter than fabric, and the final glimpse of unmasking each spirit entangled within this web of deceit. As he declared their fate, the very essence of their fabric frayed before him, a testament to the shadows that festered within the recesses of the human heart. The storm outside raged on, an incessant reminder of the tumultuous emotions at play. Yet as Poirot stood tall, his voice filled with sober finality, he uttered the last truth that would linger long after the chaos subsided. Ah, mon cher, at the dinner table, we share both sustenance and hidden sins. In the end, it is the secrets beneath the table that pen the greatest tragedies. Chapter 4. The clock strikes midnight. As the clock's hands converged at midnight, a chilling silence permeated Bouc Manor, enveloping the four souls still entrapped within its walls. Outside, the tempest raged, a wild cacophony of wind and rain battering the ancient stone, while the flickering candlelight within betrayed the tremors of dread that clutched at each heart. In those haunting seconds leading to the stroke of 12, a sound echoed, a faint, desperate whisper that wrung from Clara's lips. Something is coming, and it is not merely the storm. The chilling tension hung thick in the air, burdened with the weight of secrets spiraling into chaos. Hercule Poirot, the great detective, regarded Clara with a discerning gaze, his mind racing as fast as the storm outside. Ah, but the human heart, it indeed hides many things, mon ami, he mused silently, recognizing the intensity of her fear. His attention swept to Ralph, whose countenance bore the marks of fury mixed with something darker, a grief that had festered into malice. Across the table, Beatrice Langston maintained her veneer of grace with a smile that twitched at the corners, yet her eyes reflected a swirling tempest of her own, a mix of fear and defiance, as if she stood on the precipice of a concealed abyss. Each was a reflection of the turmoil, tangled in their own precarious webs of love and betrayal. The sudden crash of thunder ignited the candle flames, casting grotesque shadows that danced across their faces, amplifying the tension that gripped the room. Poirot leaned forward slightly, clasping his hands as if preparing to ensnare the truth with intricate threads of inquiry. Mes amis, consider the hour, the witching hour, when chaos reigns and the veil between truth and deceit grows perilously thin. His deliberate tone quelled the unrest as they realized that their secrets would not remain buried for long. As the clock struck midnight, an ominous figure lurked at the edge of the candlelight, a gruesome sight that turned their collective breaths into mere whispers. A scream erupted from Clara, a sound that shattered the stillness, reverberating off the walls. It was Ralph's lifeless body that now lay sprawled on the floor, his eyes wide in a haunting expression of betrayal and confusion. The cold, unyielding surface upon which he rested now cradled the destiny of three tormented souls, ensconced in unfathomable darkness. Amidst the chaos that ensued, Poirot remained still, a beacon of calm amid the storm. He rose to inspect the scene, outlining the parameters of unfolding tragedy. There is much to unravel, and yet each of you bears marks of suspicion, he began, his sharp gaze observing the fragmented responses swirling amid fraught emotions. Beatrice collapsed into a chair, her impeccable demeanor vanishing into the stark reality of horror. What have we done? Her voice trembled, but Poirot noted how her eyes darted left and right, slipping through the veil of remorse to something darker, lurking within. Indeed, what have we done? Poirot echoed, the measured cadence of his words cutting through the chaos like a knife. A tragedy has unfolded, yet chaos oftentimes bears the whispers of truth. Tell me, where were you at the moment of calamity? His gaze fixed intently on Clara, who now appeared a shade paler than before, the void of guilt creeping upon her demeanor like fog. I I was, I was here with Ralph, she stammered, her trembling hands revealing a hidden anguish intertwined with fear. But I would never harm him. Poirot observed her words carefully. Clara's conviction disguised a deeper turmoil, one that might unravel with further questions. He turned his calm scrutiny upon Beatrice. And Madame Langston, your reaction suggests a natural affinity toward this unfortunate soul lying before us. Her composure faltered for a moment, revealing a flicker of distress beneath the surface of her crafted charm. I was in the kitchen seeing to our meal. I had no idea of his fall, she said, her voice lowering. But Poirot detected a momentary sideways glance exchanged with Clara, a secretive acknowledgement simmering beneath their collective horror. As suspicion swirled among them, the detective took careful note of every slight movement and lingering breath. The wind howled outside, but it was nothing compared to the internal hurricane of fear and accusation brewing within Bouc Manor. Could it be that the unassuming maid, Alice, who had stepped forth from the shadows unnoticed, held the answer to this burgeoning turmoil? With poised elegance, Poirot approached the trembling figure. And you, dear Alice, please share your thoughts on this ghastly occurrence. The maid swallowed hard, glancing at the others to gauge their response, and finally managed to stammer, I saw it, Monsieur Poirot. The argument just before the darkness. It all happened so fast. I shouldn't have been eavesdropping, but Clara and Ralph were... The murmured confession was pierced by the echo of the grandfather clock, a ticking reminder of time's cruel passage. Poirot's keen gaze lingered upon the heavy air of accusation that permeated their gathered thoughts. Continuing his investigation, he delved into the recesses of their memories, uncovering the psychological tapestries woven by guilt and resentment. Avowing their innocence, yet their gestures betrayed the deeper undercurrents coursing between them. The evening deepened as shadows gathered and secrets festered. While Clara wept for Ralph, Poirot felt a growing sense that layers of betrayal cloaked far more perilous truths, a bond fractured by something insidious that had taken root and grown among the trio. In that climatic moment, Poirot addressed the trio with his unerring lucidity. A deceptive tranquility often cloaks the fiercest of emotions. Clara, you wished to escape. Ralph, you wished for revenge. And Beatrice, behind the stealthy charm, did you shape these events? Their eyes widened as Poirot's discerning deductions began to illuminate the darkness. The fractures of love twisted into malice as hidden identities began to unravel, a tale not merely of love, but of treachery that echoed through the remnants of a midnight storm. Oh, but there lies the truth. A beautiful irony, my friends. One who mourns now holds the dagger against their chest. With finality, Poirot retired to silence as the tempest outside heaved, a thunderous culmination to the woeful tale. Ah, mes amis, he concluded, the clock strikes 12 not merely as a harbinger of midnight's arrival, but as the lingering reminder that guilt, like a coiled serpent, waits until it ensnares its prey. As the shadows closed in around them, and the echoes of deceit clung to the air like a shroud, Poirot's last words echoed through Bouc Manor, a chilling reminder that hidden beneath serenity are the darkest of secrets, forever entwined in the human heart. Chapter 5. An alibi shattered. A ghastly scream sliced through the shrouded corridors of Bouc Manor as Clara's anguished voice crept through walls that had long witnessed dark secrets of their own. The candlelight flickered violently, casting erratic shadows that danced along the once innocent decor. now tainted by betrayal and demise. Outside, the storm raged, its thunder harmonizing with the chaotic rhythm of dread that had clutched at the hearts of the living. Ralph's lifeless form lay, sprawled at the center of it all, the epicenter of this unrelenting tempest, a beacon of horror compelling the remaining souls to confront their haunted pasts. Emerging from the cacophony of confusion, Hercule Poirot, the famed detective whose very presence exuded a quiet resolve, stood at the threshold. "Ah, mes amis," he said, surveying the scene with a calm that belied the chaos. "In moments of tragedy, one often seeks solace in the truths that haunt us." His gaze roamed the distraught trio: Clara, with tear-stained cheeks; Beatrice Langston, her eyes wide with fear; and Alice, the maid, trembling as if coursing through ice. Each bore their own shadow, yet combined they painted a portrait of despair that caught at Poirot's insatiable curiosity. "Mon Dieu, already I see your alibis are but wisps of smoke," he mused quietly as he stepped further into the fray. Clara, who had claimed to be with Ralph, now stood unmoored among conflicting sentiments. In that moment, she clutched at the letter, now crumpled in her hand, like a lifeline. "He was my confidant," she cried, anguish trembling in her voice. "How could I? I loved him." Poirot's keen eyes narrowed on the crumpled paper. "And yet, my dear, it is indeed remarkable how love can fray into something far darker. Tell me, did you have any quarrel just hours prior? You spoke of arguments," he noted, probing for fractures in her facade. "An argument? No. We were preparing for joy, dinner, preparation. I swear." Clara's face twisted in earnest. Beneath her emotional turmoil, Poirot sensed hidden layers of trembling fear, a fear that perhaps she harbored a greater truth. Turning to Beatrice, who had retreated to a distant chair as if the remnants of sanity provided refuge, Poirot paused thoughtfully. "Madame Langston, you appeared strong yet vulnerable when the news reached you. What weight lies behind that delicate smile of yours?" Beatrice's fingers fidgeted with the ornate clasp of her necklace, each movement detailing an inner strife that revealed more than she intended. "I had a history with him. We admired one another, yes, but I would never harm him. I was simply preparing the meal, remember? Ralph didn't approve of the changes I made." Her voice trailed off, the hint of something more lingering in the atmosphere. "But a change, dear lady, can sometimes lead to shifts far more sinister," Poirot interjected sharply, noting the tension, not just in her words, but etched within her gestures. She was concealing something, of that he was certain. Then the detective's attention turned to Alice, the maid, who now stood demurely in a corner, her hands clasped tightly. "And you, Alice, glimpsed something in the shadows prior to the storm. Your silence speaks volumes at this chaotic hour. Speak freely. Your words may hold the key." The maid swallowed hard, mustering her courage. "I did hear them," she admitted, her voice almost drowned by the storm's wrath outside. Clara and Ralph argued fiercely, and then silence. "I don't know how it happened. I was in the laundry when I heard—" Her breath quickened, almost as if she could feel the weight of hidden confessions press against her lungs. Poirot observed, mulling over this new thread of dilemma. The tumult of emotions intertwined with various truths and untruths, each maintaining a veil of innocence while entwined in a deeper conspiracy. "I apologize, mon ami, but I doubt your absence forms much of a refuge. Was there perhaps something, a whispered intimation, exchanged between Clara and Ralph before the storm settled over us. The room fell into an ominous silence before Clara erupted. "I sought to protect him. I did not trust you, Beatrice, and thought Ralph had confided in you the truth of—" She faltered, rage erupting like a tempest unleashed. "In the end, Clara, perhaps you were right not to trust me." Beatrice's voice dripped with icy disdain. "But I wasn't the only one holding secrets. You kept him prisoner in a web of your own making." A deep breath filled the air, pregnant with uncertainty. Poirot scanned the room meticulously, peripheral movements, hesitations, a myriad of details, lost upon those caught in their emotional conflagration. The candles flickered timidly, the shadows crept, and the dread orchestrated a drama that spiraled beyond his initial comprehension. "Enough!" Poirot interjected, his voice slicing through the tension. He paced, pondering the enigma while re-evaluating each narrative exchanged. Yet a pressing matter looms large, evidence concerning who truly stood with Ralph in his darkest hour. Secrets like these layer a tale far more complex. Perhaps this emotional outburst cloaks a hidden truth. As the clock tower struck, at the din of a distant thunderclap, a new revelation struck him like lightning. Ah, but the truth often reveals itself in silence. There is betrayal here far deeper than mere quarrels or soft deceptions. He looked sternly at Beatrice, whose charm was wearing thin beneath the weight of scrutiny. "And you, my dear, were not so far from the scene of mischief, were you?" Suddenly, a gasp erupted from Clara, her eyes amplifying in horror. "What do you mean, Poirot?" Poirot lowered his voice into a velvet whisper. "The very evidence that points to you is but an organ of misdirection. You would seem the most likely perpetrator, yet it is clear. This letter you hold, it is the crux of our paradox." He locked a gaze upon Beatrice. "You sought to shatter the fragile peace between Clara and Ralph. You made an appearance at Ralph's door, did you not, after the alleged quarrel?" The room held its breath as Poirot revealed his deductions that tethered together a mosaic of deceit. "You, Beatrice, feigned innocence, yet your heart was driven by jealousy, clouded by something more. You believed Ralph would choose you, not Clara." A final twist unraveled, unearthing layers of deception and unveiling the identities concealed behind their masks. Clara stepped closer to B, inching toward righteous fury, betrayal simmering in her core. "You were the thorn in his side. You pushed him away from me. And now this. I would have trusted you." An emotional tempest surged, fracturing bonds that had barely held together the fabric of their fragile alliances. And yet, as Beatrice's face twisted in anguish, Poirot knew this was not the end. The final thread of truth reveals itself when one heart bears deception beneath its guise, he murmured, almost to himself, the pieces slotting together like clockwork. "But see here, who indeed struck the fatal blow? You may have conspired, but did you land the final strike?" And in that charged moment, with lightning illuminating the once sheltered truths standing beneath candlelight, Poirot unearthed the shattering reality, revealing a final twist cloaked in poetic justice. The dagger was indeed thrust into Ralph's heart, but who wielded it? You, Alice, bore witness to the clash, did you not? Your emotions betrayed your silence. As the storm echoed its harsh proclamations, Poirot stood resolutely, an unwavering testimony to human frailty. The truth shall always emerge, like the sun after the most horrible storm. Thus, he grasped the remnants of souls tormented by each truth they dared lift from the shadows. The ending, though flashing darkness sowed seeds of hope amidst the ruin. In the shadows, dear friends, we find not merely deception, but the aching heart of human error. Chapter 6. The Accidental Witness. A muffled sob echoed through the dimly lit corridor of Bouc Manor, contrasting sharply with the merciless storm that raged outside. The flickering candlelight cast haunting shadows along the ornate walls, as though the very spirits of the manor watched with bated breath. In the grand drawing room, Clara knelt beside Ralph's lifeless body, heedless of the dark irony bound in the finality of his demise. The chilled air was thick with an emotional tempest that mirrored the cacophony outside, and tension hung palpably, ripe for fracturing. In that oppressive atmosphere, Hercule Poirot entered, his presence commanding yet serene amid the turmoil. His keen grey eyes swept the scene, processing the anguish radiating from Clara, the distant facade of Beatrice, and Alice, the maid, whose barely restrained trembling whispered of horrified complicity. "Ah, mes amis," he began, his voice calm but resonant. "In this tragic hour, it is vital we seek clarity amid shadows. Each one of you holds a fragment of this dark puzzle." Clara's tearful gaze met Poirot's as the weight of the moment pressed down upon her. "I would never harm him," she insisted, desperation threading through her voice. "I loved Ralph. We were—" Her voice faltered, revealing the raw emotional fabric of her confessions. Poirot studied her, noticing the clenched fist around the crumpled letter. A lost promise, perhaps, but his attention wavered as Beatrice's delicate form tremored in the corner, every gesture a narrative of her own opaque history with Ralph. "Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami," Poirot reflected inwardly as he turned to Beatrice. "Madame Langston, you claimed innocence, and yet I can sense the weight of a secret brewing within your words." His sharp gaze bore into her, observing how anxiety etched her features into a portrait of guilt. "May I inquire about your relationship with Monsieur Ralph? It seems laced with unspoken complexities." "I admired him greatly," Beatrice replied, her voice faltering under Poirot's intense scrutiny. "But that was all. Admiration. Love is no weapon." Yet as she spoke, her fingers nervously toyed with the clasp of her necklace, an involuntary admission of her inner turmoil. Poirot shifted his focus to Alice, who stood trembling by the door frame, an involuntary witness in this tragic tableau. "Mon ami," he addressed her gently, though the authority in his tone invited her to speak. "Your silence is troubling. You are perhaps the most inadvertent observer of our ill-fated drama." He stepped closer, noting the way her eyes flitted between the others, hesitant, but a glimmer of resolve ignited within her. I was in the laundry when I heard them argue," Alice finally stammered, each word a reluctant revelation. "Then there was silence. I thought perhaps they had come to an understanding. Then there was the scream." Her voice trailed off, thick with trepidation, revealing a chilling intimacy with the discord. "An understanding born from discontent, would you not say?" Poirot continued, narrowing his eyes. "Yet you do not look convinced by your own words, Alice. Was there not something more to that silence?" As the shadows conspired around them, the storm outside clawed at the window panes, a reflection of the swirling tempest of emotions within. As the night deepened, Poirot embarked on his investigation with focused intensity. He questioned Clara about the nature of her relationship. With Ralph, every answer veiled in layers that Poirot began to unravel with deft precision. One moment stood out in particular: Clara's admission of a quarrel she had attempted to bury. "We were preparing for something beautiful, Poirot," she said, her voice strained but fervent. "We had plans." Yet plans often mask the design of ulterior motives. Poirot mused inwardly, discerning the flicker of burden that crossed her face when asked about that letter, an entanglement of emotions muddled by the tempest brewing between Clara and Beatrice. With each question, he observed the subtle dance of their expressions, the fleeting glances, and the tension simmering among them, a symphony of evasion. As Poirot continued his inquiries, subtle clues emerged, each character casting shadows upon themselves. Beatrice's attempts to deflect suspicion only intended to shield deeper truths, while Clara's fierce protectiveness over Ralph morphed into blind rage towards Beatrice. The tension reached its nadir when Alice, amidst her fear, revealed the truth of what she had seen. A fragment of an encounter occurring just before the storm broke, one she had dreaded to disclose. Clara was with Ralph, Alice had breathed, her voice trembling. But then Beatrice came to the door, the argument I heard before it turned to silence. I was so scared. It was a glimmering hint, yet Poirot sensed deeper entanglements lying beneath the narrative, the piece of evidence concealing myriad layers of deception. "Ah, but we find ourselves dancing to the sound of confusion, mes amis," Poirot declared, gathering the trio. "Yet I detect a thread that binds all tales, leading us toward an unforeseen conclusion." Their faces drained of color as they succumbed to the gravity of his deductions, unsuspecting of the deceptive twists that loomed ahead. As the inevitable confrontation dawned, Poirot brought the characters into a circle, thick with tension and shock. "Beatrice, you feigned innocence. Your charm, cloaking a deeper motivation driven by jealousy," he articulated, observing her posture shift. "And Clara, your proclamations of love become muddled against your insistence that Ralph loved no one else, obscuring your own fear of betrayal." Clara's breath caught. "Poirot, I would never—" "Yet the heart believes what it wishes," Poirot interrupted, while feeling the electricity shimmer in the air. "Alice, you unknowingly bore witness to a confrontation that revealed the depths of contention. But let us not forget a more pressing matter concerning this stormy night, a twist that you yourself failed to recognize." The revelation hung heavily, punctuated by the rolling thunder outside. Poirot's gaze held steady. "The dagger that pierced Ralph's heart was indeed thrust by one of you, but not in the manner one would presume. Clara was caught between conflicting shadows, Beatrice's charm twisted into a vile weapon, and Alice, you witnessed both quarrels, mute with terror." In the charged silence, a soft gasp escaped Clara's lips, catching the breath of realization that swept through them. "What do you mean, Poirot?" she choked out, fingers trembling, tearing at the edges of the truth. "Ah, but here lies the moment of betrayal, deeper than mere quarrels. Both you and Beatrice conspired. The final twist is this. It was not malice born from emotion alone, but rather desperation to be heard above the storm, to escape a spurious existence." As the storm raged outside, the darkness within Bouc-Manor unveiled a fusion of betrayal and desperation. Poirot's final words lingered like an echo within the chaos. "In the end, my dear friends, it is not only the deadly dagger that seals fates, it is the silent witness lurking close, the heart intertwined with treachery." Thus, as the night held the weight of revelation, Poirot turned toward the darkness, the candles illuminating the grief lodged within the cast of characters. The harrowing truth emerged from shadows, welding despair, for a divine fracture implanted forever into their hearts. Chapter 7. a trail of blood. The candlelight flickered, casting grotesque shadows against the ancestral portraits that seemed to leer from the walls of Bouc Manor. A sudden crash of thunder rattled the windows, punctuating the silence that had settled uneasily over the gathering. Within the dimly lit drawing room, the scent of death lingered palpably in the air, thicker than the acrid smoke curling from the half-extinguished wick. Clara stood frozen, her eyes wide and glassy, staring at the blood pooling around the once vibrant figure of Ralph Langston. The storm outside matched the tempest of emotions within, as the truth of their fractured alliances rose like the smoke from the failing candles. "Oh, mon Dieu!" Poirot exclaimed, stepping into the morose scene with his characteristic calmness, untouched by the chaos that enveloped him. The hour grows darker, and with it, the fabric of human relationships strains to the brink. His piercing gaze fell upon the body of Ralph, whose life had been extinguished far too soon by unseen hands. He observed Clara, her exquisite features marred by terror and despair, not unlike a tragic statue of an anguished muse. "Mademoiselle," he inquired, his voice imbued with an eerie gentleness, "can you recount the moments that led to this dark hour? What whispers meandered through this room before it sealed itself in tragedy?" Through tear-streaked cheeks, Clara managed to compose herself, though her voice trembled as she relayed the night of fractured promises and bitter arguments. "Ralph and I had planned to announce our engagement, but disagreement marred our joy. Beatrice, she revealed secrets that I could not bear." The thought of Beatrice unleashed a whirlwind of emotions, jealousy intertwining with guilt as she spoke. Poirot turned his penetrating gaze upon Beatrice, who stood slightly apart, her features oddly tranquil amid the chaos. "Ah, Madame Langston," he prompted, "your presence here this night cannot be mere coincidence, can it? Perhaps you sought to provoke a reaction from Ralph, the heart molding itself into a weapon of choice." Beatrice's lips pressed into a thin line, her posture rigid with suppressed turmoil. "I merely sought clarity. The past is a treacherous dancer, and Ralph had never truly loved Clara." The quality of her tone, a strange mix of conviction and hurt, could not escape Poirot's keen intellect. Across the room, Alice lingered in the shadows, her timid disposition contrasting sharply with her widened eyes, betraying knowledge she hesitated to divulge. I heard their argument, Monsieur Poirot," she stammered, her voice quavering. "It was as if the walls themselves were listening, but I do not know what followed. I was frightened." A certain quaking in her voice suggested that her fright was not solely from the altercation. It was something deeper. A hint of foreknowledge shifted like fog over a brook. "Fear, my dear Alice, can often be a silent accomplice to betrayal," Poirot offered, the cogs of his mind whirring as he contemplated the myriad emotions swirling around him like autumn leaves caught in an incessant wind. "You stand as the unsung witness in a play of shadows. What else did you observe that may unlock this tragic knot?" "It is," she hesitated, biting her lip. "The knife. I saw Ralph holding it when Beatrice arrived, but then everything went dark. I was terrified." Fingers entwined by uncertainty, Poirot continued. "A knife, you say? This is a crucial detail, one that we must explore more thoroughly." He scrutinized the space around him, observing the decor, the moonlight barely penetrating through the rain-soaked windows as he sought fragments of truth hidden like treasures beneath the storm. Clara, Beatrice, Alice, all might have wielded influence in this tragedy. However, you must all bear witness now to a crucial piece of evidence. Hours turned to a haunting eternity as Poirot painstakingly questioned each woman, threading through layers of half-truths and unearthed grievances. Tension wound around the room, and whispers grew thicker, each character's suspicions boiling to the surface like the smoke from the kitchen fire. Clara's temper flared as she accused Beatrice of poisoning Ralph's life with her falsehoods, and Beatrice challenged Clara's unwavering fidelity, lives intertwined in a treacherous web of emotions. As rain lashed against the windows with renewed ferocity, Poirot heard whispered confessions and speculative musings that unfurled into an intricate tapestry of lies and truths. "Tresor," he mused thoughtfully, "a knife may prove misleading, yet the strokes of jealousy can evoke motives beyond mere rage. The mind can act as perilous as the hand." The evening wore on, revealing a play of trust and duplicity. It was not until Clara's statement about their intended future, the prospect of marriage and love, echoed a sense of desperation, one she had masked, besmirched by unyielding passion, that Poirot's intuition started taking shape. Concealed amid the flickering shadows, he had missed a deeper connection to Alice. As the maid stood around the perimeter of the room, larger than life, yet shrouded in silence, it dawned on him. The truth that wrinkled the fabric of this tragedy was not solely about jealousy. It was birthed from a deeper wound, one of unrequited love and longing unfulfilled. "Mon ami," Poirot directed his attention to Alice, "must we now address the truth that lies within your quietude? Were you not deeply drawn to Ralph, just as Clara was? Did you not bear a heart entwined in silent yearning when he chose another?" Alice cringed at his inquiry, but the emotions trapped within her began to unravel. "I had feelings for Ralph long before I came to serve here. I tried to distance myself from him. He was always so lively, while I was just the maid. When I found Clara with him," her voice trailed, revealing another layer of this grief-stricken tale. The revelations twisted through Poirot's mind, forming a coherent narrative deep within the chaos. "Indeed, Alice, the most silent hearts often bleed the most," he articulated, watching as the enormity of her emotions illuminated the room, as though the first rays of dawn broke through the tempest. "But what of the knife? If you witnessed him holding it, what transpired between those shadows, this drama written in blood?" Suddenly, the connections began to crystallize. The facade of innocence that each woman clung to began to crack, revealing desperation and hidden intentions. Clara's quaking feelings of jealousy, Beatrice's ambitions cloaked in subtlety, and Alice's unyielding silence now formed a tangled triangle, ensnaring Ralph in a web of fate he had unknowingly constructed. Poirot called forth his final design. "In our dance of shadows, dear friends, it is not only betrayal that seals fates. It is also the unyielding desire to be noticed, to be validated. Each of you bore hidden motives, entangled in tragic longing, all leading to this fatal climax." Revelations unfurled as he pointed towards Clara, her fierce love for Ralph glaring back at her, and towards Beatrice, whose passion had masked jealousy. And finally, towards Alice, who had witnessed every note of this dark harmony. "Yet we find ourselves enveloped in a red herring, draped around the truth, dear heart," he mused, feigning empathy. "The knife you witnessed was not a weapon, but rather a means of drawing two souls closer, perhaps at the expense of another." Before his audience could grasp the gravity of his words, he revealed their fate destined to intertwine, and it was Ralph's reckless passion that sealed their tragic end. A treacherous convergence, disguised as love and longing encased within a lure of rage. The atmosphere hung thick with the weight of revelation. The storm outside, now that of morning, as Poirot concluded, but the human heart, it finds itself on paths fraught with peril, dear friends. In the end, only we bears the scars of our whispered truths. As the echoes of betrayal and loss faded into the night, Poirot turned, watching as the light flickered one last time, leaving shadowed silhouettes standing witness to their own unspooled stories, forever caught in the tangled fabric of despair and hope. Chapter 8. The Cryptic Portrait. The heavy air of despair clung to Bouc Manor like a lingering fog, suffocating and oppressive. As thunder rumbled ominously in the distance, Clara's drawn features were illuminated by the flickering light of a solitary candle, standing vigil against the encroaching darkness. "It can't be true," she whispered, her voice trembling. Yet the haunting portrait overhead seemed to mock her denial, its painted eyes watching with knowing intent. In that moment, a collective shudder coursed through the gathered party, evident in the way their shoulders hunched and breaths quickened, as though the very walls themselves were alive with secrets yet untold. Hercule Poirot observed this tableau with keen eyes, honed by a lifetime of unraveling human nature and its myriad of complexities. "The heart, my dear friends," he murmured softly, his eloquence wrapping around the words like silk. "It conceals many fissures and desires, often leading to unpredicted outcomes." The cryptic portrait directly across the room was no ordinary painting. It was one that had captured the essence of tragedy, shrouded in love, lost, and ambition betrayed. As the lightning forged fleeting silhouettes upon the canvas, Poirot pondered the poignant echo of regret that infused the night. The trio before him comprised Clara, the vibrant fiancée whose heartbreak pulsed in every silence; Beatrice, the poised and enigmatic sister-in-law, cloaked in layers of unresolved past; and Alice, the dutiful maid, who seemed but a mere watcher, yet held the weight of unspoken loyalties and emotions that churned beneath her surface. Each woman stood, ensnared by the oppressive atmosphere, clothed in the fabric of their grievances and dread, yet concealing secrets that could ignite a tempest far greater than the storm raging outside. "Who among you might wield a weapon not of steel, but of brushstrokes and whispers?" Poirot inquired, his penetrating gaze dancing from one face to another, dissecting their facades. Clara's eyes glanced fleetingly at the portrait, as if it harbored the truth she could not voice, while Beatrice held herself rigid, lips pressed in a firm line that belied her stormy thoughts. The maid stood aloof, her expression marred by shadows of doubt as she clenched the edge of her apron. An insidious truth was afoot, and he felt its weight grow heavier. The unraveling began with Clara, whose quivering voice threaded through the silence. "The portrait, it depicts my late fiancé, Ralph, and me, painted at the height of our love." As her admission hung in the air, an unsettling chill spiraled through the room. Her eyes glistened with unshed tears, passion entwined with a bitterness that stung like salt upon an open wound. But what did it matter when Beatrice week by week taunted our love with her twisted truths? "Yet it is the heart that holds bitterness, dear Clara," Poirot interjected, "as much as it holds love." But perhaps you should consider the artist's intent. Who indeed does he favor? Does he capture a scene, or reflect truth dressed in the guise of artfulness? Alice shifted nervously, breaking her silence for the first time. I think she despised him." Her voice trembled, Yet the truth of her accusation pierced the air with startling clarity. Clara shot her a look of incredulity, but the fragile balance within the room tilted dangerously. I once heard Beatrice claim that Ralph's charm was merely a veneer over a disregard for those who loved him. Ah, but allow us to thoroughly assess this enigma, Poirot urged. Madame Langston, your silence is telling. What do you hide beneath your serene composure? He inclined his head towards Beatrice, inviting her to bare her soul. I sought to protect my sister from a naive heart, Beatrice asserted, her voice calm yet distant. Ralph's love was fleeting, and Clara's infatuation blinded her to a truth that I, as an elder and wiser sister, wished to reveal. The tension thickened. Could it be that Beatrice's disdain was born not of jealousy, but a misguided sense of righteousness? But the portrait, Poirot, it conceals something deeper, does it not? Secrets tied to each brushstroke, and yet Ralph's demise remains unresolved. Poirot's gaze narrowed. Indeed, a superficial canvas may conceal a darker reality, much like your own sentiments. He swiftly turned his attention back to Alice. And you, dear maid, you observed the chaos unfold as if you stood with silent reverence. You, too, seemed affected by the allure of the painter's intent. What more can you discern? With hesitant resolve, Alice stepped closer, her voice barely a whisper as she recalled a fragmented memory. I overheard a conversation between Ralph and the artist days before the tragic night. It was a desperate plea. The portrait, Ralph was in turmoil over how it would reflect his relationships with both Clara and Beatrice. A sudden illumination sparked in Poirot's mind. Yet danger lacerated the air. Ah, you see, the artist's true brush lies in the shadows, my friends. His brush revealed truths hidden within a veil of color. Our dear Ralph perceived the portrait as a reflection of his desires, unaware that it too would become a shadow of his undoing. With each discovery, the layers of deceit began to peel away. The storm outside intensified, thundering against the windows as torrential rain began to mask the vision of the outside world, much like the intricate stories hidden within each woman. As Poirot pieced together their motives, he unveiled a web of betrayal where Clara's love was desecrated by Beatrice's jealousy, and Alice's secrets felt as sharp as the rain against the glass. The culmination of the night urged him to wrestle with unexpected emotions. Poirot took a deep breath, calling forth his final piece of insight. Beatrice, tell me, what if Ralph's fateful end were woven into the tapestry of his own truth? A lover's quarrel, too tender, pulsing with vulnerability. Ah, but perceptions often twist reality into a dagger disguised as affection. Behind Beatrice's stoic facade, hollowness unfurled, unraveling her conviction. His art taunted me. It lured me into a game more cruel than I imagined. Ralph never loved me, only the memory of love. As the storm raged beyond the manor, Poirot's voice rang clear, wrapping around them all like cold steel. But therein lies our twist, mon ami. The true artist laid the brush with such finesse that the portrait became a reflection of a betrayal woven within falsified intention. The true heartbreak was never Ralph's love, but the heartbreak of his choices, the very choices that consumed him. The room grew dim, shadows swirling around them as the final revelation lingered. The tragic reality dawned, each woman's heart intertwined, their lives forever altered by a perilous engagement with longing, jealousy, and the brushes that concealed more than they revealed. With a heavy heart and a somber smile, Poirot left them with one final whisper. Remember, dear friends, the canvas is never alone in its sorrow. It is but a mirror to the hearts that compose it. Chapter 9. A Web of Lies. The wind howled outside Bouc Manor, a relentless beast clawing at the shutters with icy fingers, as if seeking entrance to a sanctuary steeped in secrets. In the flickering candlelight, shadows danced upon the walls, twisting into grotesque patterns that whispered of betrayal and grief. A blood-curdling scream pierced the howling gale, a cry that would shatter the night's fragile stillness and foretell the unraveling of the lives within. Hercule Poirot did not flinch at the noise. Instead, he found himself already piecing together the puzzle that lay ahead. The moment he reached the drawing room, he was greeted by a tableau of horror. Ralph's lifeless body sprawled upon the richly appointed rug, his once vibrant eyes now dulled, a silver knife gleaming ominously beneath the warm glow of the candles. The room was saturated with the scent of fear and tangy iron, a heady combination that turned hearts to lead. As Clara crumpled to the floor, her face a mask of anguish, Beatrice stood rigid, yet her fingers trembled ever so slightly as they brushed against the ornate mantel. And then there was Alice. The maid stand frozen, her eyes wide in shock, reflecting the chaos that spiraled in the wake of their shattered tranquility. Poirot observed them closely, noting how each woman, despite their differing reactions, bore the marks of a deeper story. Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami, he murmured quietly, his mind already whirling with possibilities. The storm outside mirrored their turmoil, raindrops splattering against the windows, a relentless drumbeat heralding dread. Poirot moved among them, orchestrating the grim symphony of their despair, his mind sharply attuned to the subtext woven into every glance, every pause, every breath. Who among you would wield a weapon as cruel as destiny? He asked softly, the tension thick in the air. The silence stretched taut, until Clara, her cheeks streaked with tears, spoke first. It cannot be true. He loved me. He promised me forever. Her voice fragmented, despair spilling into each word, yet Poirot sensed a flicker of something. Was it denial, or perhaps guilt? Across the room, Beatrice scoffed, her elegant visage betraying barely contained venom. Love is but fleeting emotion, Clara. It blinds us to the truth. The starkness of her words hung heavy, and Poirot noted the slight tremor in her carefully controlled demeanor. He shifted his gaze to Alice, who, though quiet, seemed more than mere spectator. You are too close to this storm, my dear. What do you suppose led to this moment? Alice blinked rapidly, a nervous habit that spoke volumes more than her stammered response. I only saw them together the night before, but it was no ordinary meeting. They were arguing, and Ralph seemed so upset. Her revelation trailed off into the shadows, uncertainty weaving through her voice. Was it jealousy that prompted her to reveal this? Or perhaps a misguided loyalty? Poirot's mind moved fluidly, dancing upon the strings of suspicion that intertwined them all. A web of tangled lies, woven with threads of desire and resentment. Each of you, my dear friends, has a sacred bond that carries not only love, but also betrayal. Tell me, Clara, what was the state of your heart upon that fateful occasion? She hesitated, the weight of uncertainty heavy upon her shoulders. Ralph had said he needed time to sort out his feelings. There was something between him and Beatrice that I could not understand. The twist of her words did not escape Poirot. Was it true love twisted, or the sharp sting of jealousy dancing at the periphery of loyalty? Ah, thus our enigma deepens, he mused aloud. Dearest Beatrice, I sense your resentment runs deep. Does it not? Did you perhaps cultivate a flame that flickered into something you did not wish to acknowledge? It is ridiculous. Ralph was a fool, entranced by unworthy affections. He played with hearts like a child, with marbles. Her voice rang with conviction, but faltered when confronted with Poirot's unwavering gaze. Unraveling this tapestry of emotions grew increasingly complex, yet Poirot felt the quivering strands taut beneath his fingertips. Days enveloped the manor as Poirot continued his inquiries, unveiling a chorus of alibis laced with ruses. Clara's bitter recollection of Beatrice's incessant undermining, Beatrice's self-defense disguised as sisterly protection, and Alice's projected innocence, veiling a heart that might veer too close to envy. Intrigued by the whispers of love, complicated by ambition, Poirot sought to pry apart their truths from their facades. Yet, as the shadows lengthened, a sudden twist emerged. Clara produced the artist's journal, revealing intimate details of Ralph's concern. The artist had expressed doubts about capturing true love, tauntingly asking if only the pain of a broken heart could be the essence of his art. Is this a mere reflection of Ralph's desires? Poirot pondered aloud. Or a deeper truth, concealed beneath varnished lies? Then a twist of fate rolled across the rug, one that Poirot had not anticipated. As he pored over the pages, he found a hidden flap within the journal, revealing another name intertwined in their deadly game, the name of Clara's former love. A name that brought a deceptive familiarity, suggesting her tangled heart was but a facade over unacknowledged grief. Clara, you were connected with another, were you not? He articulated softly, as if unspooling the final threads. Her eyes faltered, the truth uncoiling within her. It was the artist, Pierre. He was my dearest love, before Ralph came into my life. Poirot's face remained inscrutable, but inside he felt the gravity of her revelation. The loves they carried were not solely of the heart. Each wound was like a dagger thrown in haste, entangling them in betrayal and emotions too deep for mere words. In the dim light, Poirot saw the hearts of his three suspects twisting in the fresh wind of truth, a revelation of guilt transforming into remorse. It was then he understood the web spun of lies had ensnared them all, and that betrayal had become the true heart of the matter. The knife was not simply a weapon, but a reflection of a deeper pain, Poirot proclaimed with a weight that seemed to resonate within the shadows of the room. Your tangled desires, Clara, your envy, Beatrice, and the fear of exposure, Alice, each thread interwoven in a design meant to conceal rather than reveal. He paused, the air crackling with anticipation. But in your attempts to mask reality, you have awakened an unrelenting truth that can be the artist's truest brushstroke, the realization of what is lost in their acquiescence to desire. With the finality of his revelation, Poirot noticed the shadows shift, intertwining amidst the coldness as Clara's hoarse breath filled the air, laden with despair. Each woman stood at a precipice. On one side, acceptance; on the other, oblivion. As the storm forged its relentless path through the night, Poirot delivered his final words, laden with wisdom, entwined with sorrow. Do not allow the web of lies to disguise the truth you hold close. The heart, dear friends, must be raw to reveal its true hues. And as the candle flickered one last time, casting a final shadow of entanglements left unsaid, Poirot knew this mystery would never truly fade, the echoes of desires fulfilled and hearts shattered would linger far beyond the storm. Chapter 10. The Heartbreaking Confession. A chilling wind howled through the cracked windows of Bouc Manor, its mournful wail weaving a symphony of despair that echoed in the cavernous halls. A single, flickering candle cast trembling shadows that danced wildly across the walls, painting grotesque shapes, a fitting backdrop to the turmoil that festered within. The room felt alive, almost sentient, holding its breath in anticipation of the revelations yet to come. In the midst of this suffocating darkness, a figure stood before the fireplace, her silhouette flickering like the flame, each pulse revealing the battle within her soul. Alice, the maid, was attempting to gather her composure, but the tumultuous night had frayed her nerves to the breaking point. As Hercule Poirot surveyed the scene, his gaze was drawn to Clara and Beatrice, both women poised on the precipice of unraveling emotions. Clara's delicate fingers trembled as they clenched the hem of her dress, struggling to shield her turmoil from view. Beatrice stood with an air of defiance, but her steely exterior betrayed the crackling undercurrents of regret and jealousy that simmered just beneath the surface. Poirot, ever the astute observer, noticed the pallor on Alice's face, the way her eyes darted nervously between the two women, as if anticipating the eruption of a long-held secret. "Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami," he whispered privately to himself, his thoughts stirring with the thrill of the impending revelation. The atmosphere was thick with unspoken words as Poirot directed the conversation toward Alice. "My dear, what burdens weigh upon your heart this night? You possess a crucial piece of this puzzle, do you not?" His voice was calm, yet insistent, drawing Alice's gaze with a magnetic pull. As she began to speak, her words tumbled forth in a rush, a floodgate opened in the midst of the storm. I overheard Ralph speak of a letter. It was meant for Beatrice, yet he never had the chance to deliver it. He had written about his doubts, his fears, his entanglement with Clara. Her voice faded, but the weight of her revelation lingered palpably in the air. "Interesting," Poirot mused, tapping his fingers lightly upon his chin. "A letter that held the key to understanding the dynamics of this relationship, and yet it remains veiled in mystery. What became of this correspondence, Alice?" He fixated on her, his dark eyes piercing through the veil of confusion that surrounded her. Silence enveloped the room, and Alice fell into a trance of remembrance, her brow furrowing with concentration. "I thought I saw it tucked beneath Ralph's sketches before... Alice's voice broke, the implications too heavy to bear. Poirot turned his scrutiny toward Beatrice next. "And you, madame, with your condescending wisdom, shared like a poison. Was it not you who claimed that love is but a fleeting emotion? And yet your demeanor suggests otherwise." "Hercule," Clara interjected, her desperation clawing at the seams of her words. "Why does this become a trial by fire? We are already fractured, can you not see? What remains of our love when tainted by such intrigue?" Her emotional plea drew sighs from both Beatrice and Alice, the complex tapestry of their interconnected lives growing increasingly frayed. "Ah, Clara," Poirot replied thoughtfully, "but it is from the ashes of anguish that clarity often emerges. You seek the healing touch of truth, yet to seek it, we must confront the dark corners that loom large." He leaned closer, his voice a conspiratorial whisper. "What if this sorrow belongs not solely to Ralph, but to each one of you. A shared bouquet of grief, perhaps. Just then, the storm outside reached a crescendo, rain pounding down like the percussion of a mournful symphony, amplifying the gravity of their respective confessions. As Clara and Beatrice exchanged embattled glances, Poirot noted the ebb and flow of emotions shifting between them, fear, anger, and an undeniable surge of sorrow intertwined in a dance as old as time itself. Hours passed as Poirot wielded his inquiries like a master artisan, meticulously sifting through layers of obfuscation. Beatrice began to unravel, betraying the cracks of her composed facade. He could not love me. No, Ralph was forever in love with the ghost of someone else. I was but an echo, a shadow of his true desires. The admission hung in the air, heavy with regret and longing. Underneath their bravado, Poirot sensed vulnerability festering like an untreated wound. Clara remained resolute, her eyes glittering with defiance as she faced Beatrice. "You speak of shadows, but what of your own? Did you not entice him with the promise of the life he coveted?" The tension thickened, a taut string ready to snap, the truths beneath their accusations weaving a rich tapestry that could ensnare them all. In the dim candlelight, Poirot discovered a new texture to the night, one replete with sorrow and betrayal, yet somehow imbued with hope for redemption. He sensed the inevitability of a confession clawing to be released. "Ladies, I urge you to consider. Each of you holds a fragment of the truth, but it requires illumination. The night cradles many secrets, yet only the brave will dare to unearth their burdens." He gestured toward the flickering shadows, beckoning them all to share their truths amidst the tempest outside. As if under some invisible spell, it was Clara who stepped forward first, her voice breaking the dam of restraint. "Ralph, he had a history, a painful past that intertwined with mine. Pierre, my first love, had painted his heart into my soul, but Ralph sought to replicate that passion without understanding its depths." A vulnerable note infiltrated her confession. She revealed the complexity of fulfilling someone else's longing when her own heart lay unhealed. It was a devastating revelation, one that lodged itself deep within Beatrice's heart. But I, too, had burdens. I fell in love with an illusion, envisioning a reality where the artist's conception was one that did not require sacrifice. Her voice trembled, the resentment she bore slowly transforming into raw honesty. The tapestry of betrayal continued to unfurl, and Poirot observed intently as Alice, too, found the courage within her timid heart. I did not wish to see them together, yet I found myself in a tragic triangle. I loved Ralph in ways I never spoke of, but I wasn't the only one entrapped by the poetry of fractured affection. Her confession hung like a heavy mist, clinging to the corners of their shattered lives. Poirot drew them closer with his presence, a gentle tapestry that wrapped around their shared grief. "Then this storm, this dreadful night, it has revealed the very marrow of your souls. The letter Alice spoke of, it may contain not just elation, but also condemnation, a final denunciation toward your entangled paths." He paused, stepping deeper into the edgy folds of their confessions, the flickering shadows deepening the weight of his inquiry with an eternal duration. Suddenly, a memory surfaced from the murky depths of his core. "The lost letter," he breathed. "Ah, what if Ralph manipulated each of you into believing he held your hearts? What if the letter was never lost but deliberately concealed?" The shock at these words rippled through the room, as the underlying implications undulated in the air like an unseen wave. Could it be? Alice gasped, now teetering on the precipice of realization. He was playing with us all along? A final crack of thunder punctuated the tense atmosphere, and with it, Poirot felt the bitter-sweet pulse of truth deep within him. The letter, carefully hidden, yet gibbering like a scorned lover, had indeed become the fulcrum upon which their affections pivoted. It would appear, mesdames, that instead of love, his desire for artistic turmoil crafted this chaos. The heart was a mere canvas, and each of you the strokes of paint, betrayed yet brilliantly intertwined. As the last echoes of that night dwindled, shadows crept toward a reluctant resolution. Poirot turned to them, the flame of truth ablaze in his heart. You see, my friends, it is in the most heart-wrenching of confessions that one can find redemption. But be wary. There shall always remain a heavy cost for hidden desires. In the pervasive darkness of the manor, the breath of betrayal wrapped around them like an encroaching fog, hinting at the entanglements yet to come. Poirot understood then, in that charged moment, as the winds howled their lament outside, that this was an infinitely deeper tapestry, layered with love, anguish, and the inevitable fractures that doomed even those touched by a whisper of hope. Chapter 11. Betrayal in Plain Sight. A clap of thunder reverberated through the stone halls of Bouc Manor, a harbinger of doom that sent shivers running through the spines of those gathered within. The flickering candles cast an eerie glow, their weak flames battling against the encroaching shadows that clung to the corners of the room. It was a night heavy with portent, a night when whispers of betrayal hung in the air like smoke from a long-extinguished fire. As the winds howled outside, Hercule Poirot sensed an unsettling presence amidst the gathered company, a certain tension that promised revelations both shocking and unfathomable. As he surveyed the room, Poirot's sharp eyes turned to the trio standing at the opposite end of the parlor: Beatrice, Clara, and Alice. The recently unveiled truths of their entangled pasts hung heavily over them, like a shroud, their emotions raw and frayed. Yet an even darker mystery lingered just beneath the surface. Each woman bore the scars of heartache, and as they exchanged furtive glances, rife with accusation and lingering affection, the potential for betrayal crackled in the air. But it was Alice, the once timid maid, who electrified the atmosphere when she inconspicuously produced an envelope from the folds of her dress. "Poirot," she began, her voice trembling and quaking like the storm outside, "I have found something that might reveal more than what we dared discuss." With trembling fingers, she extended the envelope toward him. A letter, weathered and worn, bearing no inscription, yet exuding an aura of foreboding. "Ah, but the human heart, it hides many things, mon ami," Poirot mused, his mind racing with possibilities as he took the envelope. He deftly peeled it open, unfolding the paper, whose ink had long since run, but whose words still told a story. Even without understanding the context, the heaviness of the emotions behind the scrawled words was palpable. "Ralph," he read aloud, "I am tormented by shadows that refuse to submit to the light. I fear I am but a mere reflection of someone else's dreams." He paused, glancing up at the assembled women. Their faces were a tapestry of fear, regret, and something darker, perhaps guilt. "It seems the spectre of love is mirrored among you all," he stated, watching how they squirmed at the implicit accusation. Each woman's reaction provided clues that Poirot noted with acute precision. Beatrice stood rigidly, her eyes narrowing as if she were examining the text through a lens of betrayal rather than connection. Clara's lips tightened, reminding Poirot of a coiled spring, ready to snap at any moment. And Alice, her fearful gaze flitting back and forth, registered bewilderment and something more, an unvoiced resentment perhaps. "Tell me," Poirot prompted gently yet firmly, "what do you know of this torment? Who did Ralph seek to placate with these strange words?" His inquiry resonated through the room, echoing against the stone walls like the distant rumble of thunder, provoking a silence as heavy as the air before a storm. It was Clara who finally gathered the courage to speak. "Ralph believed his passion was a curse," she confessed, her voice trembling like the flame of the candle illuminating her face. "He sought not love, but redemption. I thought our intimacy would resurrect him from the abyss, but instead, I fear, he was just spiraling deeper into despair." The weight of her confession hung in the air, but her expression revealed a subtle defiance, as if she firmly believed the blame should not rest solely on her shoulders. Beatrice chimed in next, her voice laced with bitterness. Redemption? Or perhaps it was an excuse to indulge his whims. He was an artist, forever chasing the elusive muse rather than embracing the reality that lay before him. I was merely a stepping stone in his convoluted quest for inspiration, a mere shadow of what he truly wanted. Her admission sent a ripple of tension through the room, sparking a flicker of discord between her and Clara. Alarmed by the undercurrents of their exchanges, Poirot leaned forward, hands clasped under his chin. "Interesting, mesdames. So Ralph's struggles were not merely his own, they reverberated through your hearts. Yet even in this revelation, one must wonder, was he the true puppet master, manipulating strings, or simply a victim of circumstance?" The shadows danced as the candlelight flickered, revealing the raw beauty and tumult within the tangled lives that had converged. It was in this moment of vulnerability that Alice spoke up, her voice cracking under the weight of implication. "I, too, found myself ensnared in this twisted web. In secret, I loved Ralph, but it was perhaps my innocence that rendered me the most naive. I believed in a love that was never meant to be." She drew a sharp breath, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. What if it was I who pushed him toward the realities of his pain? Poirot observed the dynamic shift yet, again his mind racing as he gathered the threads encompassing their confessions. Questions rumbled within him, each one pivotally entangled with the others. What lay beneath the surface of their motives? Yet, in the midst of turmoil, a missed clue nagged at him, threatening to slip through the veil of his perceptions. "Ah, but the heart often conceals itself behind other masks," he pondered aloud. "Tell me, what of the lost letter, the one Alice mentioned earlier? Where might it be, and what truths would it unveil?" The women exchanged glances once more, apprehension marked upon their faces. At that very moment, another crack of thunder echoed outside, silencing their murmurs as Poirot's gaze remained fixed upon them. Could it be this letter was never lost, but instead hidden in plain sight, he suggested. If our dear Ralph played the artist, he perhaps sought to frame his tale not only in drama, but also tragedy. Who would seek to hold on to such a possession if it carried such weight? As words settled like the very storm raging outside, Poirot's instincts tingled. Someone amongst them knew more than they were willing to reveal. As the night deepened, he resolved to employ all his faculties to unravel this enigma lurking just beneath the surface. Hours passed, their conversations ebbing and flowing through moments of tension and revelation. Yet, as dawn's first light began to pierce through the storm, he found his mind conducting a symphony of connections, each note echoing softly in the recesses of his thoughts. Poirot finally rose, looking deeply into each woman's eyes as he prepared to unveil the culmination of his reasoning. "The heart reveals what the mind struggles to conceal," he began, drawing their undivided attention. "The path to resolution lies through the shadows each of you has cast over this affair. The lost letter, a document that served as a silent witness to your entangled truths, it now rests amongst your hearts. For my friends, it would seem that betrayal has indeed been perpetrated by none other than Ralph himself." Gasps filled the air, a collective tide of outrage and disbelief. "You see, dear ladies, Ralph sought not love, but a grand performance, orchestrating your affections like the artist he aspired to be, blurring the lines of trust beneath the brilliance of deception." Yet he paused, eyes narrowing as if seeing something beyond their confused expressions, and perhaps the architect of this chaos was wholly unaware of the true consequence, a price far steeper than any of you could have anticipated. There, ensconced in the murky depths of emotions intertwined with deception, Poirot had finally unearthed the bitter truth. Betrayal lay layered within betrayal, a cruel foreshadowing of what might have been. As darkness faded into dawn, he looked upon each woman with an understanding that transcended their frailty. Though the hour may later carry illumination, let it be known that even in the most turbulent hearts, shadows cling. Be cautious, mesdames, for there is no lament more profound than a betrayal perceived in full view. In the quiet aftermath of his revelations, as the sun began to rise and illuminate the hidden recesses of Bouc-Manor, Poirot stood quietly, pondering how easily love, ambition, and resentment can intertwine, creating a tapestry that reveals not merely the allure of art, but the raw, haunting reality of the human experience. Chapter 12. The Final Reveal. As the clock struck midnight, a single scream pierced the heavy silence of Bouc-Manor, echoing like a death knell through the darkened corridors. It was the kind of scream that hung in the air with a palpable weight, one that could freeze the blood in one's veins. Hercule Poirot, pacing thoughtfully in the parlor, stopped in his tracks, his heart quickening as he recognized the voice, Clara's, filled with terror. In an instant, he was moving, his polished shoes gliding silently across the cobblestone floor, leaving behind the flickering candlelight that cast unsettled shadows on the walls. The gathering storm outside raged with ferocity, but it was the tempest within Bouc-Manor that stirred an even more ominous foreboding. Poirot arrived at the source of the sound, the library, where Clara stood, her fingers trembling as they pointed towards the lifeless body sprawled upon the floor, a figure drowning in a puddle of crimson. It was Ralph, the man whose phantom had haunted their conversations, now silenced forever. The sight was chilling, a testament to the chaos and betrayal that had unfolded within those very walls. "Mon Dieu," Poirot murmured, kneeling beside Ralph's body, his keen eyes scanning the room with meticulous precision. A single glass lay shattered nearby, rolls of parchment scattered like forgotten dreams, and the echo of whispered confessions danced in the dark corners of his mind. Who among us could be so callous? Beatrice, still in her evening gown, her face a portrait of shock, clutched the back of a chair for support. "We were arguing, Poirot," she exclaimed, her voice trembling. "Ralph insisted he would expose us all. He claimed our feelings had trapped him, and her words trailed off, swallowed by a heavy silence. Indeed, Poirot interjected, a most inconvenient truth for a man who preferred to remain shrouded in artistic ambiguity. Quite suitable for the artist, would you not agree? Yet, even as he spoke, Poirot's mind traversed the delicate threads that connected the women to Ralph, a tangled web of affection, resentment, and ultimately, despair. The remnants of their past lingered like the smoke of extinguished candles, past memories and hidden wounds waiting to be unraveled. Clara shifted uneasily, her pallor betraying a deeper unease. Ralph's death must be connected to the lost letter, she murmured, her gaze darting around the room like a trapped bird. He mentioned it just before. Before, it is my fault, Poirot. Do not be too hasty to assume guilt, my friend, Poirot replied with a watchful eye. The truth is rarely as straightforward as it appears. With a tone steady, yet simmering beneath the surface, Poirot turned his attention to Alice, who stood apart, her expression caught between horror and disbelief. As a witness, you must tell us, Poirot implored. You were closest to Ralph. Did you see or hear anything unusual? Alice's voice trembled as she recounted her last moments with Ralph. He shared with me his torment, the letter. He had hidden it away, believing it contained secrets too dangerous to reveal. She paused, her brow furrowed in anguish. I begged him to let it go, but he wouldn't listen. Poised between the threads of possibility, Poirot captured the atmosphere within the library, where shadows merged with uncertainty. The clock ticked steadily, and he sensed a deeper lie hidden among them, a lie potent enough to disguise their turmoil beneath an unsettling calm. With each deliberate inhale, he reached into the folds of his mind, sifting through the clues, the doubts, and the veils of betrayal. Now we must not forget our dear Beatrice, Poirot pressed, wheel turning with shrewd intention. Tell us what happened after you left Ralph. A moment of honesty could illuminate the darkest corners. Beatrice leaned into the back of the chair, her jaw tight. Why must I defend myself? I did not murder him. Yet you knew of his machinations, Poirot stated, his voice unfaltering. It is said that the more one wishes to create art, the more one is willing to indulge in chaos. The words hung heavy in the air, and Clara flinched, drawing closer to Alice, who shot Beatrice a look that suggested unspoken accusations festered beneath the surface. With each passing moment, tension thickened like the storm descending outside, each character cloaked in layers of fear and accusation. Poirot's sharp gaze shifted towards the scattered papers. He bent down to examine Ralph's wrist, discovering a splintered brass key lodged amid the fabric of his cuff. Ah, the key to the truth lies hidden within these walls, perhaps, he contemplated aloud. Could it be that our dear Ralph intended to unveil something larger than himself, thereby sealing his own fate? As the storm raged outside, each character began to feel the weight of their concealed intentions rise like the tide. Poirot's investigations unspooled, entwined, stories of ambition and despair, twists that led him to a revelation, both shocking and inevitable. Permit me to pause, he said, stepping to the center of the room where shadows danced voluptuously across the walls. Let us reflect on your testimony. The lost letter has remained but a phantom, yet it drew you all to a singular purpose, to betray Ralph in unison. From the depths of each woman emerged the darker motifs of tragedy, while Poirot sensed the intricate layers of truth interwoven with deception. You so believed in the myth of Ralph's artistry that you deemed yourselves victimized by designs he never laid. But the people's hearts, they disseminate truths, often obscured by belief. What do you mean? Clara gasped, her eyes widening. None of us conspired. Not conspired, no, Poirot interjected, the pieces of the puzzle falling into place with startling clarity. You each sought liberation through the artist's flame, the adoration, the affection, merely puppets in his grand performance. It was in this moment of clarity that a memory flickered. Poirot touched his temple, recalling something Alice had said earlier. I believed in a love that was never meant to be. Was it mere naivete or masked affection that simmered beneath? Let us examine deeper motives, he continued calmly. Beatrice, you felt betrayed by Ralph's ambition. Your desire for authenticity extinguished beneath his need for inspiration. Clara, you sought redemption, yet could not save him from himself. Alice, to you, Ralph embodied the sanctuary you longed for but could never touch. As Poirot articulated their entangled stories, the dark undercurrents churned more vigorously beneath the surface. The truth, as I ponder, is that Ralph himself had orchestrated an artifice far grander than his death, a tragedy contrived through manipulation. While you were all entangled in his performance, none could foresee that Ralph had hidden the letter not as a mere possession, but as the catalyst of his turmoil, an artifact sparking the flames of your mutual betrayal. Gasps of recognition filled the room, and Poirot's keen eyes remained trained on the trio, scrutinizing them with unwavering resolve. Yes, dear ladies, he murmured with calm authority. As the storm howled outside, Ralph became the unwitting architect of his demise, driven to tragic lengths by a need for artistic recognition that transcended mortal limitations. The one who truly betrayed, however, was not among you at all. The air crackled with tension as he revealed that the true secret of the letter had been Ralph's hidden identity as the son of a disgraced family, leveraging every connection in pursuit of artistic vision and revenge. Grief washed over the women's faces, a tsunami of regrets and resentments that churned violently. In poignant solidarity, Poirot captured their gaze and slowly concluded, but in their yearning for love, they each cast aside all that had once united them. It is a painful reflection. Betrayal wrapped in ambition, the human heart, an eternal maze of longing. As dawn broke, casting a soft light across the bloodied floor, Poirot stood amidst the remnants of broken dreams, knowing he alone had unveiled the heart's truth. Even the most passionate of us, dear ladies, must tread lightly, for in the pursuit of art, we risk losing sight of the very lives we touch. The heart is a fickle companion. In silence, they absorbed his revelation, each woman clutching the shards of her own tumultuous memories, while Poirot bowed his head, allowing the weight of the revelations to settle in the room like the dying storm outside.